crank, we could turn a worm gear.
Yeah, and it'll rotate the gear.
The teeth on the gear will move the metal strips to produce the music.
In the technological design process, the design plan, or diagram of principles, enables designers to clearly visualize the active forces and the resulting movements inside an object. It is an important step in developing a relevant technological design process. The design plan is a simple drawing illustrating one or several operating principles of the technical object. Standardized symbols are used to show the active forces, the resulting motion, and the links involved. We can draw the object from several angles. However, since the diagram could be used by someone else, we must choose the angle that best represents the function of the object. For our music box, the front view is the best. We see how the crank turns the worm gear, which puts the gear in motion.
Yes, and we can also see how the teeth of the gear move the metal strips and produce music. Now let's use an arrow to indicate where the active force is exerted on the object.
Yes, but not any type of arrow. We must use a thick arrow.
Why do we follow this rule?
Because it's the rule. If everyone uses the same symbols, then we can understand each other. Remember, anyone who reads our diagrams should be able to understand how our object works.
And where do we put our force arrow?
On the crank, because it's where we apply the force to produce the music.
Then we have to add the motions.
As with the forces, we have to respect the rules, so we now draw simple arrows.
The easiest way to proceed is to imagine each motion starting with the crank and moving on from there. The crank experiences a rotational motion.
Let's add the arrow.
The crank drives the worm gear in a rotational motion. The worm gear turns the gear in a rotational motion, and each of the teeth moves the metal strips with a translational motion.
That's it. I think it's all there. We can see where the force is applied and the motions produced.
Lastly, we have to add the symbols to identify the links. In our music box, the metal strips are fixed to the structure with a complete link.
The structure of the box is assembled with several nails. Again, they are complete links.
Good! Finally, our design plan is complete.
We see that the design only shows how the object will function. This is why it is called the design plan. We can now move on to the next step. It will show us how to use the parts and materials to manufacture the technical object.